welcome back to Jordan's Everyday DIY. Today we're going to work on a craft project. Melissa is constantly getting asked to make wood signs. Very popular thing right now. Melissa did a video on Jordan's Everyday DIY, check it out, for a plywood round, door round. Got a lot of views on that. She did a really good job showing that really pretty little door round that you can make at home. Today we are going to make a rectangular sign that has a frame. We're going to be using 1/2-inch sandy plywood that you can get at Home Depot. That's S-A-N-D-E, sandy plywood. Sandy plywood is made from a wood that's imported specifically for making plywood. And it's a wood that is very consistent coloring from the sapwood through the heartwood. And so it gives a nice consistent color on the sheet. Great for painting, great for crafts. It's a really good plywood overall. So that's what we're going to use today. We're going to cut a piece out of this 24 inches by 30 inches, which was the requested sign size. We're also, and I've already ripped it, some number 1 select pine. Also, you can get at Home Depot. That's the cleanest pine that you can get there. Rip that into some 1 inch by 3/4 inch pieces. And that we're going to use for our frame. And then we're also going to rip some 2-inch strips of 1/4 inch luan. And I'll show you how we use that on the back side of the frame to kind of finish this off. So let's get started. Let's get this wood cut. Okay, we've got the wood all cut. Now what I want to do is I want to measure this select pine that I already ripped into 1-inch strips. I want to measure 2 pieces, the height of the sign. The person that requested the sign from Melissa requested a sign 24 by 30. I cut this down just a little smaller in each direction to account for the frame, so that nominally overall it'll be 24 by 30. So what I want to do now is I want to measure the vertical for this sign. I want to cut 2 pieces the exact height of this plywood, and then I'm going to measure, I'll put those on the sides. I'll take this other piece and measure the width of this about 1/4 inch long on each side and cut that piece. And I'll show you how we'll put this together and what that'll look like when we're done. Okay, now what we want to do is, I have all these pieces cut. I have these 2 pieces on the side that are the same height as my piece of plywood. Then I have these 2 pieces, which will overhang, and I'll try to show you this here close up in just a second, by 1/4 inch roughly on each side. Okay, so you see what that looks like. Again, it's just an aesthetic thing. It's not for anything real particular. But what we'll do now is we're going to get this stapled together. This is going to be very simple. I'm going to use these 2-inch rips of luan that we made. And I'm going to rip pieces that I can glue and staple onto the back side of this 1x. And then what we'll do is, once that's all stapled together, we'll take the piece of plywood out. Melissa can paint the frame separate, work on the piece of plywood, paint it, do the lettering, and then we can drop it back in and staple from the back side, and we're all done. So let's get this stapled up. All right, now what I want to do, now that I have all the pieces cut, I've got them over here on the bench, I'm just going to roughly and lightly sand these edges of the sandy. Might just really lightly go over this with like a 220 or something, give this a good surface for Melissa to do the sign on. I picked this as the best side. The back side has a little dent in one portion, probably did that in the truck. But anyways, this will be the best side for her to paint on. Then I'm going to sand on these frames a little bit and these luan pieces just to avoid any splinters. We'll show you how we're going to put it all together and we'll go from there. Let's get it sanded up. All right, got that all sanded up. Want to get the workspace all nice and clean, get everything kind of wiped off. If you'll notice on these 1x Select pieces, I only sanded on the one edge where I made the cut with the saw. Everything else on that's pretty good for these type signs, so don't have to do a lot of prep on that. And again, the pieces of Luan that kind of splinter when you cut them, that was really just to get rid of the splinters. Not a real sensitive piece there. And this piece, we just lightly sanded for Melissa to paint. I want to make sure I got my workbench clean because I'm going to lay this face down to get some measurements for my frames. So let's lay this down and get this measured up. All right, pretty sure I have everything I need here. So what we're gonna do now is lay out the frame. I have this face side down on my bench. Remember, that's why I cleaned the bench off. This sandy plywood, as great as it is for crafts and stuff, it is really soft. So you get a little gouge or something on the underside, it's gonna make a mark on the wood. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the frames, and I like to take the edges that I cut, that I ripped through the saw that I just sanded, I like to put those facing this frame, because you're gonna see very little of that in the end. You're only gonna have about a 1/4 inch reveal once it's all said and done. So lay those pieces on the side. I do the same thing top and bottom with the pieces, except I have a 1/4 inch overhang on each side. So basically just kind of get that laid out. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some glue and we're gonna put kind of a perimeter on the inside edge towards the piece of plywood of that 1x Select. The glue is what's gonna give us the strength in the end. The staples are just gonna hold it in place basically until it glues good. Now, I'm gonna take the two long pieces, and I already know about what my spacing is. I typically lay these on about 3/8 to a 1/4 inch or so off of the edge. Melissa will still paint this black, but when you hang it on the wall, it'll give you a little bit of a spacer off the wall. It's in shadow, so you don't really see it, but you don't wanna go all the way to the edge of the frame. So I hold that in about a 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first loose lay all these on here, so I can make sure that my side pieces butt up nice and tight, top and bottom. Because the other thing this will do for you is basically you're gonna create kind of a subframe that the plywood will sit into. When you flip this over, it's like a little tray. And that will cover any kind of light or potential light bleed if this is slightly off or just slightly out of square from the frame. Let's get these stapled up. I'm going to use 9/16 inch staples. Get this lined up, and I'm going to shoot a couple staples in here. And I like to hold the 1x Select tight to each other, so that gives me a nice bond. Now I can push down on this whole apparatus on my stomach here. Good thing I haven't dyed it too much. Push down pretty hard on this, keeps everything nice and tight. We'll do the same thing on this side. Then we'll go around and we'll get everything all stapled together. All right, now what we'll do is we'll remove that, and now you have this frame. Melissa can paint this separate because it's a completely separate color. She can paint the face and do the sign work on here, and when we come back, what we'll do is we'll put this back together the same way. I'll put a shim underneath this so it holds it up tight against this frame, because remember, it's gonna set in here about a 1/4 of an inch. We'll nail it, or staple this, I should say, from the back side with the same staples and glue. Then you got a finished picture. So let's see what Melissa does with this next.
Okay, so I am ready to get the sign painted, and I thought before I did that I would just share a few of my little tips that I've learned along the way that help out a lot. So first of all, you want to make sure that your wood surface or whatever you're making your sign out of is wiped down really good, that there isn't any, like for me, dust or sawdust or anything like that from cutting it, and that it's clean and ready to go. And then also, I like to use a roller. A lot of times I'll use the foam ones, but I didn't have that on hand today. This will work just fine. But what I like to do first, because this is one of like those fuzzy rollers, is just to take some painter's tape and wrap that around the brush, because when you do that, you'll see, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but definitely there's a bunch of little fuzzies on here. So if you skipped that step, then you will find that you'll get that in your paint, and it's really annoying. And then the other thing I just wanted to show you really quick, and I know I've shown this on here before if you've watched some of my other painting videos, but I love to line my paint trays with foil. For one, it's a lot easier to clean up when you're done. You just pick up this foil and throw it away. And also it eliminates from having to buy a bunch of these different pans, or also having to clean in between each color. So those are just a couple of my tips. I am going to start off, because this is raw wood, I am going to first paint it with some Kills primer, and then I'll get going on the color. Oh, another tip that I wanted to suggest to you is that I like to elevate my piece that I'm painting. So I have the piece of wood that the actual sign is going to go on actually just some canned goods, and then also the frame. So that is just lifting it up off of my surface so I can get a good edge around the corners.
All right, so we're back out in the shop today. I'm gonna finish up my portion of this sign, getting the sign that Melissa painted and she did her vinyl on, getting this installed into the frame. A couple little things that I'll remind you of. If you recall, when I made this frame, I added this thin luan as an interior frame. So the picture is gonna set inside here. I do this for a couple reasons. She paints it out black. It avoids any kind of light bleed where there may not be an exact fit between the piece of plywood and the frame. And it also gives us an easy way to staple. So I'll put a little bead of glue around here. The staples again are just holding till the glue dries. And then you'll get a nice, good adhesion then. And then what we'll do on the back is we'll just put a little hook and we'll be done. So what I've got here, if you recall, this sign insets into the frame. So that it makes it easy, I've got some spacers laying here. It could be anything. This just happens to be a expanded PVC, a central material that's about 1/4 inch thick. I'm gonna put a couple of rags across it just so I'm not messing up her sign, because I don't want her mad at me. And we're gonna lay the sign face down on this. The reason I'm doing that, lifting it off the table, is so when I push this on, that it'll be off of the workbench enough. Gonna have to kind of hit this on a little bit because she's got paint on the edges. So now I can push down on this, and the face of the sign is off the ground. The frame is slightly off the bench, so that when I can go around, I can push down on that real good and get a good adhesion. So I'm gonna pop this back off, and we're gonna put a little glue around the inside. Put it closer to the frame so you don't get any squeeze out. Real simple bead around there, and we'll put this back on. All right, I'm gonna go around, put some staples in it. All right, that's what it looks like. Not sure if you can see it or not, but you got just this, you have this little bit of relief here. This just insets a little bit, frames it out nicely. It's very easy to put together. Again, put a simple hook on the back and we're all done. So I'm gonna put that hook on here and get this back into Melissa.
Okay, so we are done with this project now, and honestly, I really wanted to record doing the vinyl on the sign, and I totally forgot about it. I was just trying to get this project done. So hopefully in the future, I am gonna do a tutorial that really goes step by step with using my Silhouette machine. I feel like when I first got my Silhouette machine, it took me so long to really learn how to use it, and I tried looking up tutorials, and there's not a whole lot out there that I feel really show a beginner how to do it. But trust me, it is worth learning how to use it. I used to make my signs with painting them by hand. I would use the carbon paper, and you can still do that. If you don't have a vinyl machine, you totally can achieve this look by picking out a font on your computer, printing it off in the size that you need, and then using that carbon paper to trace it, and then by hand painting it in. They still turn out really great. It just takes a lot longer. So anyway, I'm really happy with how this sign turned out. And I think custom making your own signs to be able to really reflect your personality in your home. I love to be able to use scripture and just reflect my personality and things that mean the most to me. And then obviously being able to pick out your colors that you like. So this sign is going to a friend of mine. I was able to make it for her, so I'm excited to give it to her this week. Brett and I have kind of taken a break from doing these YouTube videos, but we are really trying to get back into it. I have some spring ideas that we want to bring to you, more home decor and different event ideas. With Easter coming up, I'm hoping to bring you a tablescape for that, so stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, we would love for you to do so. And until next time, stay blessed.